1. Folks, we have officially hit the point where I don't even remember how many weeks we haven't had sports. I don't even know what baseball is anymore. Good afternoon and welcome to the podcast. I'm Nick Drago. Today on the show, we're going to talk all about CC Sabathia's swole new look, the MLB Players Association, and the owners go toe-to-toe on is there going to be a season this year and how it looks. Plus, a couple of NFL players got in trouble with the law this weekend. I know, what else is new? But we're going to talk all about that as well. So stick with us, friends, because sports starts now. And welcome to the Sports Podcast with me, your host, Nick Drago. For those of you that are new to the show, we usually talk sports stuff. Well, we're still going to talk sports stuff today. I shouldn't imply that you know what I mean. Of course, there's no sports, so we're going to just talk about what's going on in the news of sports. The sports news is kind of where our focus has been. There's no actual games to talk about, discuss, no cool plays. Did you see that radical throw by Andy Dalton? I don't know why he was the first name to pop into my head, but he was, and I'm proud of that. Okay, my goodness. If you like what you hear today, sign me on Facebook, SoundCloud, YouTube, and the Twitter. Just type in sports with Nick Drago. That's me. And then you could also find me on SoundCloud, Twitter. That's not what I meant to say. You can find me on all your favorite podcasting apps, including Spotify. That's right. That's our new home. We're on the Spotify. Whoop, whoop. All right, what do we want to talk about this week? Well, there's a couple things. I had a good weekend. Did you guys have a good weekend as well? You know, it's weird, this whole COVID thing. This whole COVID thing that's been going on is really, I don't know about you, it's throwing me for a loop. I'm having a hard time remembering what day it is. Like I said, I don't even know when the last time I saw a sport was. I know there was UFC this weekend, so that was a thing. Too bad nobody was watching. But you know, at a time like this, tempers are flaring high. I know my wife and I right now, we put in an offer on a house this weekend. We're still waiting to find out if it's gonna come in or not, so please wish us luck. And you'll have to wait until next week, unless you know me personally, which most of my fans do, because we don't have a lot of fans on this show, and that's okay. I like my friends that listen in. Thanks, everybody. No, I'm just kidding. Actually, I should note that we have about 50 to 100 or so, maybe even more, 200 or so listeners per episode. That's right. We do get a good number of listeners. Yeah, I know we're not the 30 for 30 podcast and Chicklets. What's the one losing Chicklets? I don't even know. But we do get a number of listeners. Our YouTube channel, not so much. We only get like 1 or 2 listeners on YouTube. We get like 3 on YouTube, and then like 150 to 200 on all our other on the podcasting apps. So I always find that interesting. Somebody who is pretty upset about this whole thing, Radko Gudas. Yeah. So Radko Gudas was at a golf tournament in Barun, is that how you say that? In the Czech Republic this weekend, and was asked about the NHL season returning. Now, Gudas is a pretty important defenseman, let's say, for the Washington Capitals. So his thoughts on the season, and this is his quote, I think we shouldn't play when the whole world is canceling seasons. Hockey would be the only sport trying to power through it like this. They wouldn't let us go to the Olympics so we wouldn't get injured, but they want to keep the NHL season running in these times. If we kept playing, our sport would be swimming against the current a bit. Money is money. It's what currently makes the world go round. It's a bit sad that they're willing to risk the health of so many players for money. Don't get me wrong. There's there's a lot of things that are right about this statement. Obviously, the NHL's doing this about money. And yeah, when the players go to the Olympics and nobody's paying them to do it and they get injured, it stinks for the billionaires that own these teams. Hence why they stop players from going to the Olympics. The fear here, and he goes on to say, if one guy is infected, basically the whole league has it in a week, given how they're planning to have everyone play against everyone, one stupid stumble, and you can cancel it all again. Now, he's not wrong here. They have to be careful about how they do this, and you know what? Okay, so one guy gets it, everybody gets shut down for 2 weeks, and then you go back into it. You know, there's a lot of logistics that go into bring the season back, which is why they're taking so long to make a decision here. However, he does say that NHL is the only sport trying to do this, and that is not true at all. Maybe overseas, I can't speak for the Czech Republic, but the NBA, MLB, they're close to returning. NFL's planning to just be there. And look at Taiwan, baseball is bigger than ever over there. Yeah, you got robots in the seat. Yay, good game. Nice ball hit. I'm assuming that's what robots in Taiwan say, although I guess they don't speak English, but whatever. The other thing he went on to say is that he's probably not returning to the Washington Capitals because they have a lot of young guys who are going to be eating up a lot of their money. So who knows, but Radko running his mouth. All right, CC Sabathia. Now, CC is very well known for being a big boy, and that's okay because he pitched great. There was one season where, you know, he quit drinking and he really got his life together. He's, I'm going to lose weight. And he looked fantastic. But he couldn't pitch for his life. So all that extra weight is really what helped propel the ball forward. I don't really know, but it was force of nature. And then what happens, he the next season comes back and he's big again. And he wasn't amazing. We're not talking Cy Young candidate, but he pitched pretty darn well for the rest of his career. So, CC Sabathia this weekend, I think he lost, God, I don't even know how many pounds, but he posted a picture of himself, and holy cow, the dude looks like Kimbo Slice. He looks terrifying. Good for him, though. Good for you, CC. Proud of you getting that demon monkey off your back, and hope you feel better. You know, I hope that you don't have as much creaking in your knees and you feel nice and strong and big. I got to give him credit. He lost a lot of weight. All right, so baseball's coming back, and it could be ugly. You know, the MLB Players Association has a lot of power in this league. You know, we've had a baseball strike before. There's every couple of years there's threats of a strike, and there's been a big one blooming. Yeah, kind of both. Both words work. Next year they were supposed to renegotiate terms with the league. So there's already the fear that this next season there could be no baseball, but there's the fear of this season there could be no baseball. 2 years without baseball, that's going to kill the league in a lot of these teams. You know, yeah, we've had a half season without baseball before because of a strike, but nothing like this. So MLB is ready to go. And just to put it in broad terms, this is the proposal for returning to play. So revenue-wise, it would be a 50-50 split for the 2020 season. You'd have an 82-game schedule instead of the standard 162. They would start in mid-June with spring training, and then an early July opening day. Makes sense. The postseason would be expanded to 14 teams rather than the typical 10. I'm not sure the reasoning for this. I guess because they're playing less games down the stretch, so it gives more of those bubble teams a chance. Games will be played in any home stadium where it's allowed. So a team like the Yankees, it might be a tough bet, New York having baseball. Designated hitters in both leagues. That's right. National League will have to go with the designated hitter. That's an interesting prospect because, you know, National League guys, they are dead firm on the pitcher getting an at bat. And I like the idea, you know, don't get me wrong, but it stinks to have a pitcher injured because they can't hit. And most pitchers, there's some who can hit decently well, but most pitchers can't hit at all. And so why even throw them out there? I don't know. We're not going to get, that could be a whole episode right there. And then some of the other things proposed is that the games would only be played against your divisional rivals and the NL corresponding division. So what that means is, again, I'll use the Yankees as an example. The Yankees would play the AL East and the NL East. So teams like the Mets, the Phillies, Braves, Nationals that they wouldn't normally play, now they're going to be playing a whole lot. And that's going to hurt because you have a lot of really good teams in both those divisions. Obviously you have the Yankees. The Rays are a perennial contender, at least for a wild card spot or even to get in. The Red Sox could ever always be up and down. You never know, even though they had a rough year last year. Then you have, the Mets are always a bubble team. You have the Nationals that are the defending champions. You have the Braves that are usually the champions of the NL East. And the Phillies are looking really good right now. There are a lot of people who think the Phillies could at least make the postseason. Maybe not in this plan or proposal. We'll see. So it's going to be a lot of tough games for both of those divisions. It really suck if you're the Blue Jays, right? And then I think they would expand the roster up to 30 active players, and of course, no fans in the stadium. So that's the proposal. The players are probably going to be okay with most of it, but the 50-50 split is not going to work. There's no salary cap system in baseball, which is why these baseball players can sign absurdly huge contracts, hundreds of millions of dollars over the course of 8 years. So a split revenue like that works really well in the NFL, the NBA, the NHL, because they have a salary cap. No salary cap in baseball. So this is going to severely limit how much some of these players are making. And MLB is bringing in a lot less revenue because it's estimated that about 40% of their revenue comes from concessions, tickets, and any other, gate-related income, right? Anything else that has fans in the seats. So MLB is taking a huge hit by not having fans, right? But they have their very lucrative TV deals. Players are getting a hit because they have to. It's this 50-50 revenue split. So it's going to be interesting. Players are also concerned about testing. They need to make sure that there's ample testing, and really, that's been a problem not just in the sports world, but throughout all of the America. The United States of America, I should say. Testing for corona has not been easy. And one of the other rules, I thought this was funny. No spitting. No spitting for those players. So keep your sunflower seeds and tobacco at home, boys. Now, another interesting proposal came up. And this one is less serious because it comes from the man, the myth, the legend himself, Bryce Harper. So Bryce Harper posted this on Instagram the other day, and it's not bad. Hello. I just flicked my wire around. It's all good. I'm sorry, I flicked my wire around. All right, come on. Let's focus, Nick. It's getting late here. All right. So Bryce Harper's idea is this. They'd separate the Major League Baseball into an East and West, like the NBA and NHL. He broke down the amount of days. So you have 31 days in July, 31 in August, 30 in September, 31 in October, 15 games or so in November, and then you can have 135 games. He said you can have an off day every 2 weeks on Monday and Sunday doubleheader, 7 innings, expand the rosters to 30, which they're already talking about doing, possibly have a 6-man rotation to save arms. And that's really if the pitchers were interested in that, if he even put, if not, it's no big deal. DH, and then in the playoffs, he said basically like a 2 weeks World Series. He called it Super Bowl week. 10 teams, round robin tournament, kind of like College World Series. You could do it in the new Texas Stadium or whatever stadiums are best. Yeah, so he was basically saying you do a 3-game series, winner moves on. If you're the loser, you play in like a 1-game wild card, which is how the College World Series does it. It's not a bad idea. He said you could do Vegas because you have all the strip hotels, but of course it gets pretty crazy down there. A lot of people. And then once you have 2 teams left, you can go to a typical 7-game World Series. It's an interesting thought, Bryce. I'm not going to lie. It's fun. It could be a fun idea. So, I don't know. We'll see. I just really hope that there is baseball this year. Because, again, I don't want to go into next season with the fear of because of the, the union and all the struggles and whatnot. And realistically, what hasn't been discussed is at what point do you feel comfortable going to a stadium? Certain people, myself included, might be less inclined to go to one for at least a year, or at least there's a vaccine. This could be common practice for the next year or two. And so, while they're trying to get something on the field, court, ice now, what's going to happen after the season, into next season? Could be 2 years before we're really seeing baseball and basketball and all those things the way we want to see them in person, in the seats, heckling, booing, and a big beer and maybe nachos. I'm more of a cheesesteak guy, but of course that's a Philly thing. So if you're not in Philly, don't get a cheesesteak at your sports stadium. What's the matter with you? That's like getting a New England clam chowder in Arizona. Do they eat clam chowder at like Red Sox games? I really hope they do, because that would just be hilarious. I got my clam chowder. I don't know what voice that was. All right, we're gonna move on now. All right, looking at basketball. So all the big name stars, the ones you've heard of: LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Steph Curry. They have all agreed that they do not want to cancel the season. There's a big, a big meeting between the NBA's elite players, the people who really run the league, control where everybody goes. There's like a whole secret society. But none of them want to see the season canceled. They've worked hard. They're really close to the end. And I think the consensus was we could just go straight into a tournament, straight into a playoff. With basketball, I say this a lot, but the 1 seed, the 2 seed, the 3 seed, and most of the times the 4 seed, the higher seeds usually win the first round. There's not many surprises until you get to like the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th round of the playoffs. So realistically, you could effectively just have four teams from each league. I know they'll never go for this, but I'm just saying you could effectively have 4 teams from each league and have a pretty accurate description of what's going to happen. In fact, when is the last time a less than 4 seed won a championship? I'm not sure. We'd have to look into that. So yeah, the league is very hopeful that possibly something can happen. Again, still no details. We're waiting to find out if they have the ability to protect players' safety during this whole thing. Zion Williamson. So Zion's former marketing agent, Gina Ford, is suing him due to claims that the family was receiving impermissible benefits, or what would be considered impermissible benefits by the NCAA. She is suing him for $100 million in punitive damages, and hoping that they admit to this. But we will never really know. She could just be upset because Williamson signed with a different agency, CAA, but who knows? We'll find out. I think it might be some time until we hear that. But Coach K could be deposed. So, deposed. He could be called into court. Aaron Rodgers wants to retire a Packer, but he knows it's out of his control. The whole drama with them trading up and drafting Jordan Love in the first round instead of getting a receiver to put around Aaron Rodgers, your future Hall of Fame quarterback. This is starting to look a lot like Brett Favre. Of course Brett Favre wanted to retire a Packer. Of course he did. but he was getting on in age, didn't want to retire. They had this young guy named Aaron Rodgers who they thought could possibly be really, really good. He turned out to be much better than anyone expected, or at least much better than I expected, and I think most folks. And now it's like the story returns. So Jordan Love could be the future. Who really knows? And Aaron Rodgers could be on his way out the door. I think he still has this season under contract, and then we'll go from there. Bill Oliver of the Buffalo Bills was arrested on a DWI and weapon charges in Texas this weekend. Ed, come on, man. What are you doing out there? Drinking? He's probably just, I'm just picturing him like driving with his knees, one gun out the window shooting at the world, and just a giant beer in his hand glugging away. The other story was Quentin Dunbar and DeAndre Baker. They turned themselves in on robbery charges. That was the whole story last week. And really, this whole thing got me thinking: is like, why do all these NFL players get in trouble? Like, why? Very rarely in other leagues we hear about people beating their spouses, hitting their children. Breaking it. You're making millions of dollars. They broke into somebody's house and stole what, $70,000 worth of stuff? Is that what I saw? Something like that. Oh, they were taking money and valuables from attendees at a party. They stole $70,000 worth. These dudes are making over $1 million. What do you need the $70,000 for? Why? So the problem is that, a lot of these guys, first off, they're young. Yes, they are grown men. Yes, some of them have college degrees. I think most end up getting drafted 20 or 21. So some of them end up with a real college degree and some of them do not. But even, some of them come from, areas of the world where there's high crime. They have a lot of friends maybe that encourage them to do these things. They surround themselves with the best people. So yeah, these young millionaires, 21 years old, suddenly gets millions and millions of dollars because they have some athletic skill. I don't know, what else are they gonna do? I just find the whole thing absurd though. Like, why did they need to steal all of that money? What are they going to do with it? Why did they think they could get away with it? I don't know. And what was the other thing I was going to say? Marijuana is also a big issue in the NFL. Yes, it is legal in most states and areas of the world now, but still technically a banned substance by the NFL. So these guys are doing the marijuana and getting into trouble. I don't know. I just find that stuff to be interesting. Why is it? You don't hear about that as much in other leagues. I can think of rare cases, players who got in trouble. I mean, look at what's his name on the Yankees last year, who was banned for slapping his girlfriend, I think. You have Patrick Kane who beat up a taxi driver in Buffalo with a baseball bat. That's a true story. Look that one up. I shouldn't laugh. It's not funny. Not funny at all. But you just don't hear about it as much as you do with football. Maybe CTE is a factor. These guys, if they've been playing football their whole lives, getting hit over and over and over. It's not like you get to the NFL and it's just within that 10-year span. Some of these guys lose their minds much earlier, and that could be part of it too, is the CTE thing, lowering their inhibitions. Regardless, that's just the way the cookie crumbles. I don't know. Regardless, some of these players, I hope you guys, Baker and Dunbar and Ed Oliver, find the light. It doesn't have to be Jesus if that's not your thing. I get that. Find the light of the world that cleanses your palette of life, and then put it on the field and play some damn good football. All right, friends, that's all the time we have for today, because that's all I had to talk about today. There's literally nothing to talk about. Special thanks, as usual, to Johanna Drago. She's the content designer, web designer. We don't even have a website. Content designer, logo editor, and set designer of this show. She's my wife, and I love her. Thank you. The music you hear is a song called Golden Sunrise by Josh Woodward. A link to his website can be found in the show notes. Special thanks, as usual, to our social media warriors, including Mary Kay Albert and Gary Albert. They listen every week, and so thanks for listening. And Joe Calabro, he's also a frequent listener as well. So thanks, Joe. We're coming up to our 100th episode. I think this is 97, 98. I should know that. Hold on a second. We're gonna find out right now. We are in the super high 90s. Not just regular 90s, but like super high 90s. This is going to be 97, episode 97. So here's my thing for you guys. For our 100th episode, you have a few weeks to do this. I want you to share with me your favorite sports moment. It can be anything. Any sports moment you want. We're going to have our 100th episode, big summer blowout. I don't know what it's going to look like. There's not even going to be sports to talk about, but it's going to happen. And it's going to be amazing. So, email me, sports3xpodcast@gmail.com. Tell me your favorite sports moment. You can also comment on this video. You can comment on any of our video, on our videos, Facebook page, all of those things. And you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, SoundCloud, and the YouTube. Just type in sports with Nick Drago. That's me. Is that all I had? I think that's all I had. Once you go to those websites, like, share, comment, and Twitter at me. You can subscribe. That's a thing the children do. I still don't have a TikTok, so don't try to tick or talk me. Although, maybe I should get one of those. It's not like I'm doing anything else right now, right? I am treating patients and all. I'm physical therapist-ing somewhere. That's all the time we have for today. So thank you so much for joining us, friends, and I hope to see you next week. Number 100, we're coming up soon.